Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming. Today we have Michael Mobbs. It's a great honor. My best friend in the last 10 minutes. So when I sent the email, I got so many responses. So you are very famous, at least in this room. Michael had low experience between 78 to 90s, but then he decided that there is better way maybe to save the world.
Mm-hmm.
And we asked him to come to speak with us about what is the better way. He also wrote few books. I will pass this one here, but there is others that it's worth to read. And maybe the better one is just to start, no? So please welcome Michael.
I want to make 3 points today. Our cities are 2 to 4 degrees hotter than they need be because of black roads, black roofs and no trees. We can cool our cities, however, by 2 degrees by 2020 by putting in trees and changing the colour of roads. The third point is we can do this, but our governments can't. So I'm going to quickly skim through some slides, maybe speak for about 25 minutes max, and then let's have a conversation. You ask me questions, maybe talk to each other. It seems to me that, so far as I know, no one has saved a planet before. So the idea of being an expert in that field of practice is silly, really. This photograph shows what the bike people in Melbourne sent me after some bikes melted in Melbourne in the 2009 heat wave. And this is an image of Chippendale between the midnight hours of 1 a.m. and 5 a.m. on the 6th of February 2009. A thermal image taken by a plane that flew over during those hours, and shows that the roads, which are about 24% of the landmass of that suburb, were over 33 degrees, but the private land was no hotter than 29 degrees. Out west, roads are 30 to 35% of the landmass. So people like me trying to do useful things with their buildings, harvesting water, harvesting the sun, cooling the streets, our work and our investment is undone by the roads. This shows the progression of our cities. First there are forests, then we put farms where the trees were, then we put black roads and new houses. This is a 2006 subdivision on the north coast. And you see there why our cities are hotter. It's because we take away the trees, which are just free aircon. And in the European heat wave in 2002, London was 9 degrees hotter than the surrounding countryside. So it's not just a hot country like Australia that's affected by the urban heat. I've counted about 13 people with a finger in their road that we see. By the way, I came here through what I thought was the flood. The road over there was flooded. The only thing missing, I think, was an ark. And all of that water is going to the ocean today. Very little is staying here. So how would we cool this city of Sydney when we've got all these people with a finger in the pie? I'm not going to dwell on this slide or go through those people, but because you'll have the PowerPoint and can take the links, and the books show the analysis of who plays a role in the roads, you can see that separately. I just want to talk about the ideas and leave you, if you choose to go through the details outside this discussion today, but I'm happy to talk about them and, of course, to answer questions about them if you wish to. So there's no heat goal in any city plans. If you can show me one, I'll buy you a beer. The people who design the roads have no obligations to achieve any heat outcomes. It's not reflected in sustainability checklists. So no one is responsible. And there's no incentives for people to build roads or maintain them to cool our cities down. So temperatures are going up, bills are going up. The list is long. A lot of people are dying, mainly young kids, and older people die in heat waves. They die in around about the second day. The death rate varies according to the location of the city and what people are used to, but they do die, young babies and older adults, premature deaths. And you get really significant damage to our health, to our IQ, to our respiratory systems, and aircon goes up and so on. So there are big problems. Let's, however, spend most of our day now looking at the solutions. I'd like to see some performance goals so that if you're running all the freeways, you've got a performance part of your contract that says you will cool the roads when you build new ones. And I'd like to see some mandatory requirements for the materials and the colours for the things we build. These things are not in basics. They're not in the law. They're suggested, but they're not mandatory. But as an ex-lawyer on a long journey back to try and rejoin the human race, I confess here that I have little faith in the law. I trust us and our self-interest. So most of my strategy that I want to discuss today is about money, about giving ordinary property owners and tenants some financial incentives to change their road, their street and their building. If those people grow trees and plants and if they do things, then I'd like to see that they have rate rebates, or that if they're in a proposal, they go to the top of the in tray in the development approval process and they are approved in priority, that there's a special approval process. You come in with a cool road design, you come in with some green elements in your project, then you go through and you're automatically approved except for some things which are outside that are already in the plans. But you go to the top of the pile. Before we dwell on some of the details, this is an image of what a cool road might look like. If you think that this is fantasy, then come to Chippendale. We have roads there we've been working on in this way since 2008, and we have measured temperatures in the roads there 10 degrees cooler on days when it's 40 or more degrees, because of the plantings, because of the cool road work we've done there. This is an image that comes out of America, where they started doing some early work on the different thermal performance of roads, and this is part of the experiment that Chippendale is. In 2012, we put a skimmed layer about as thick as my finger over some black tar, and we have a temperature monitoring station that takes data every 5 minutes on the temperature and sends it to a computer in Hobart. And we've got now really good before data and really good after data. We're monitoring that road. It was expensive. It cost over $75,000 for about 100 metres of road. Clearly we can't go around all the roads we've got in Australia and resurface them. But in Chicago's back lanes, when Chicago wanted to cool its streets, it started off, when it was doing pale surfaces, with a road media that was 4 times more expensive than bitumen. But by the end of the Chicago project, it was the same price. So the City Council engineers and I are working together. We believe that the price would come down if pale media became the norm. We will document this project towards the end of this year. The data is free to air on the City Council's website. You can download CSV and Excel files of all this data, or you can take the links that I've given you here in the presentation. In 2010, we put another monitoring station around the corner in a street with lots of trees. This street is north-south. So if the sun is up here and a north-south road faces north, it will typically be shaded more by buildings anyway from the western sun. But this one has trees as well. So it's 3 to 4 degrees cooler 24/7 throughout the year. It holds the warmth during winter. Those trees hold the warmth down. So it's not just a summer benefit, it's a winter benefit as well. So it's got a lot more trees, 64% tree cover, compared to Myrtle Street, which is east-west, which is just 6%. Orientation and tree canopy are both important factors in cooling roads. About 3 years ago, I set up a research and development company called Street Coolers, and we got a grant from the New South Wales government to create 2 local solar power stations in existing city blocks and to take those blocks off water, sewage and energy. We're a bit slow, we haven't done it yet. But what we are doing is getting really good fine grain before data. So this is one of the students here with a little laser handgun. You just hold it there and you can get the temperature. I'm just going to try and make this thing go. So let's just watch what this records. 37 degrees there out in the sun. And it pops down, I think it gets to 17 or 18 or something like that. So we're really getting fine-grained data, the best data I'm aware of on some real projects in the world trying to work out what to do in Newtown, Chippendale, Redfern and Pyrmont. It's a funny thing in a way. This bottom section down here shows an ideal cool street with some trees coming up in the middle. It's funny because it's the garbage truck that's holding back cooler cities. That median strip has to clear a 4-metre high garbage truck. And we can't easily get 4-metre trees on day one into the middle of the street. But we can get some small things in the middle of the street. Just before we come back to the street, I just want to come back to what a tree needs. They're like you and I, they need nutrients and water and sunlight. That stuff that's running down the streets today, there are 500 billion litres of water that run off Sydney each year. Very little of it stays to water trees. And each day, over 2 billion litres of sewage goes out into the harbour. So when people show me romantic images of whales breaching off Sydney coast, the cynical lawyer in me says, yeah, but. So what I want to focus on now is how we can get things happening in the context of what I say is a tragedy. I took this photograph on the 21st of February, just near Broadway, near Glebe Point Road. This is a bobcat, probably about 1 metre deep in parts with sludge in a park run by the City Council, the same council trying to do good things with the road. That is sludge just from the park. So even the park has been so badly designed it doesn't hold water or sludge. I mean, it's really interesting that in this dry country we do not get water. It's treated as a waste product. The same month of February I walked around the Canada Bay foreshore. This is the visible stuff. It doesn't show the asbestos and all the chemicals and heavy metals. And that's what gets carried away by the water. So let's look at some simple solutions for householders. This 6-year-old here is carrying out hydraulic work with not a consultant in sight. In fact, I'm not sure that her parent was around. There's a couple of really important developments in this photograph. She, just want to make this thing go, just here, do you see my arrow? She is standing on a new path. The engineers, the road engineers, respect to them, now make new paths in the city because of the work we've done together, which are pale. No more black footpaths. And they slope them down. And what we are doing with this vastly underpaid 6-year-old labour is laying some ag pipe. It's leaky pipe with geofabric at the lip of the path, so that when the water runs down it, it goes into the path and gets down into the soil and is more effectively used than if it runs onto the surface where it would evaporate and scour away the way it does in Victoria Park and produces the sludge downstream that I showed you. We have a deal with the council that we can plant. So we chose these plants and we planted them. And I've come here to boast. A few months later, I give you a really healthy chili plant. They lasted 2 days before who knows who took them. This stuff is wonderful. As I've been talking to you, it's not an attractive thought for some of you, I'm sure. I've been breathing some of your air and you mine. We're connected. And city planning doesn't get the connections, but they're real. And what we're trying to do in Chippendale is acknowledge them, treasure them, and put them to work. This is what can be achieved in a clay soil. It's the back of my estate. What it shows is a really simple design. I have kept 2 million litres of sewage and 2 million litres of water on my house in a clay soil. Today, if I was to walk here or on some soil, there would be no absorption capacity. But, I love this stuff. You know, in Star Wars, when Luke can't quite get the bomb to land on the big enemy's power engine, the voice comes in here and says to him, Luke, feel the force, be the force. I feel the drip, I be the drip. So I had to work out how to keep that drip. I followed it down the roof and the gutter in my mind, and I tried to work out how I could keep it here. To me, this is the essence of how I design and think. I be the drip. Probably resonates with a lot of people who know me. While it's soaking up the top here, it's not soaking. It's like the meaning of life, this arrow. I'm always looking for it. Down here, in this ungrouted sandstone, as the water rises from the tank that's under the deck, it can be absorbed sideways down there, even in teeming rain like today. In this rainfall that we've had over the last few weeks, not a drop except what might have fallen off the fence has left the house. But you go to any of the hydraulic guidelines and standards, 9,999.5 hydraulical engineers, they said it can't be done. Don't tell me it can't be done. Here's another unskilled labourer drilling holes in a pipe and watering it, not with a leaky pipe, but with another pipe. And this is a figure showing that when we use leaky pipes, we have huge savings. In Chippendale, for a total cost of less than $300, we are keeping over 4 million litres of water where it falls in our road gardens to irrigate the trees. No one in government or industry can compete with that. So what we did in 2008 changed this and created a social glue and gave us self-confidence that we can do these things. With the council's assistance, we closed off some streets, had a fair, and the council gave us 200 fruit trees, herbs and plants. And people who had never held a shovel came forth, dug holes, planted trees, and we put in leaky drains, and now we have a suburb where people say they sell the houses quicker and people say they buy the houses because of the streets. I'm not saying that 100% of people in Chippendale or anywhere in Australia agree with this approach. They think that doing work in the verge is some sort of work of the Antichrist or something. I just noticed that a council in Queensland has told somebody to rip it out. At the same time, a council in Perth has said, get out there and do it. So this is a moment of curiosity, a moment of change in the way our streets. Remember, it's our land. The council holds it on trust for us to live and to use. It's our land. So the City Council has made a policy you can garden anywhere in the streets of the City Council without approval. So we enjoy it. Being the drip in the gutter, which is a place where I dwell, this is a street in Newtown where we're creating a local solar power station, doing all these things. And if you look at this tree, look at it, poor thing. You know, it's amazing they grow. So what we do, or what I've done here with this trial, which has been approved by the council, is at the level of the gutter, we take the water in a hole through and we distribute it along this trafficable grate with more ag pipe and so on. What we're doing is we're putting water and nutrients and air into the root zone of the tree so it can grow. It's a very sad tree, but it's much happier now. We're monitoring the girth and the growth of the tree. And this is at Sydney Uni. This is one of the pop-up things I've designed, powered by a solar panel popping along. No one looks after it really, it just maintains itself. So that's another way to get some water, some solar energy and some shade where there's great difficulty in harvesting water. Instead of having a one-dimensional fence, this is a fence where neighbours can share stuff. Coffee waste, harvested by this cafe, taken out and put on trees, in this case in an orchard out west. This is some details on those designs. This is one of the demonstration projects in the Newtown block, and this is an article I wrote for an online magazine called The Fifth Estate, which has a list of all the financial incentives offered by councils across Australia for a whole range of purposes, to restore land, to stop water being wasted and so on. So you can take the links there. But let's ask the question, why incentives? Well, I don't think we can get this done in the next 5 to 10 years if we keep nagging governments to do. I don't know if you've been noticing the energy debate at state and federal level, but it's bordering on the farcical. It's just bizarre. Now we're going to have a second sort of pipes up at the Snowy. So we not only can we do it, I think we're the only people that can do it. Imagine if instead of paying, say, $1,000 for your rates, you only had to pay $900 if you planted some trees out the front, or if you put a rain tank in your garden or at your house, or you put in a leaky drain, or you did something that would keep water to make existing or new trees grow very quickly. You might do that, and that review of local council incentives across Australia shows that people will. They don't expect to get all their money back, but recognition by government incentivises people to do things that they want to do because they feel a connection with their land or their house or the road outside it. It's been tried with farmers who will plant trees and do things at much greater cost than any rate rebate that they may have been given by a local country council. So there's links to that data. The reason I'm suggesting it be part of the rating and financial system is this. If it's true that we've got to cool our cities very quickly in the next 5 to 15 years because of their contribution to climate change and to pollution, we've got to start planting trees tomorrow. We've got to start putting in drains. We've got to start getting the message out and getting people to do this very quickly in a way that people can be motivated and mobilised, but governments cannot. So that's the only quick way, I think, to get this done. People love to talk about things they've done that they think provide a public benefit. And that's been the experience of the data I've seen and the people who've participated in council rebates. So some facts. If we can increase urban trees and vegetation and plants, we can cool temperatures by 4 degrees. That's a big change. So we just have to get 10% of trees out there into some of those red hot roads that I showed you in those early images. You've seen that living evidence from the laser gun about how much shade reduces compared to a pale road. Probably 3 to 4 times more shade reduction and, sorry, not shade reduction, but cooling by a tree than there is by a pale road. And if we can reduce it even by 1 degree, we have massive savings in energy, and household bills for fridge and aircon use drop significantly. So we've done some work. What we're suggesting is if we were to have around about $120 a year reduction for people who put trees and vegetation and irrigation outside the front of their house, then we can get that sort of 10% reduction. We can get that sort of cooling. And it wouldn't be a cost. It would actually reduce the costs on council stormwater and Sydney water levies. I'll come to Sydney water levies and council levies in a moment. So what we're suggesting is, from our search at these sites, is that these solutions can store and absorb between $2,000 to $29,000 of water a year for trees and plants and get them growing. And if we put about 5 or 20 trees and these leaky drains and these gutter bypasses in a city block where you had about 20 houses either side, and they spent somewhere between $500 and $15,000 all up, then we'd get cost reductions of about $150 to $2,000 a household a year. Let's take the $500 That would be leaky drains. That would be getting the 6-year-old slaving away to lay the ag pipe. Proud of what she did, learning about water. And the upper range is when you're getting some of those drain gardens happening and some other more expensive engineering works. The $150 saving is if you've got a real gas guzzling fridge and you can cool that house by a couple of degrees for most of the year, then you can reduce the energy bills for some of those fridges by that sort of amount. Those are ballpark figures. The $2,000 upper figure is if you've got aircon and so on. In the books that's going around, I've got all the opportunities that I've just spoken about. There are lots more. They're in the book. And I'm coming to the end of this presentation so we can have a chat and you can drill me with questions. Some of the experts say, what if people say no to my suggestion? Well, we're going to have cities that are generally 5 degrees hotter by 2050. We're going to have a lot of people, billions of them, who are going to need additional food. We're going to find it difficult to grow food. We're going to find huge increases in energy just to keep cool. I don't know if you saw Harvey Norman talking about how they've had a great year because of the aircon sales. And we're going to have heat waves like we've never seen before. I think most of you in this room would know this. I'm saying this is not going to be 2050. I'm saying it's going to be this side of 2030. I'm predicting 2025 in the next 10 years. I'm saying that for 2 reasons. One, no one has saved a planet before. We're just guessing. Secondly, the guesses being done by people who study this are showing that they've guessed down here and what's happening is up here. So I think there's no time to waste. We need to get self-interest recognised, triggered and operating. And that's enough of me. There should be more of you now. So let's have some questions and let's see what you think of my wild ideas and my suggestion that you be the drip or whatever it is that would assist you in your research. May I have any questions, please? Yes?
So just asking about tree safety, whether people have looked into what trees are safer. The reason I ask is I love trees.
Yes.
And my neighbour loves trees, so she took my daughter to this particular park over the weekend that's got lots of trees. Yeah. And the tree branch fell on her. So apart from a traumatised 5-year-old, she got 13 stitches that night. So my daughter said, we're not going back to that park. She said, we're not going to that park when it's windy. And luckily no one wants to sue the council. But I was thinking, are there trees that are more safe? And I can see from the council point of view, and lots of public schools, they chop down the trees because they worry that children will get killed by it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I'm delighted no one died.
Yes.
And I think the gods have sent you today. That's a fabulous question given the subject matter. Thank you. Let me work towards your answer this way. In 1996, I felt the same way about myself generally. I didn't like the sound of my voice. Yes, I'd left the law, but I hadn't really found a new way to deal with energy and water because I'm passionate about it. Probably picked that up. So I decided to disconnect from town water and sewer and put in a solar system, the first time all of that had been done in the centre of the city that I'm aware of. And my boy was 6 and my daughter was 10, and despite my good intentions, it would have been a bad look if the children had died because the water was dirty. You know, people would have been upset, even the kids. And I did some research. There was no data on the long-term quality of stored rainwater in Australian cities in 1996. So with the assistance of New South Wales Health, I took samples of the rainwater every 2 weeks for 18 months and compared it with the town water when it was taken back to the lab. My water in dirty downtown Chippendale was cleaner on every count than town water. And I have much more detailed data that happened afterwards. What I'm saying is 2 million Australians drink rainwater every day, and sometimes when I offer rainwater to people in the house, they recoil. I could tell you some scary things about mains water, but I won't. Just before I finish the answer, what's the time? Where's the whip cracker? What's the time?
45. So another 10 minutes.
Okay, so the answer about trees is anything we do has a risk, whether it's drinking rainwater. No one has died drinking rainwater. Some kids in Queensland died when their parents on a farm pumped the untreated water onto the garden and they ingested it here. There's no real protection this route of the human body, but there is this way. It's no comfort to you or your friend, but very few people die from trees falling over, but choosing the right tree, the right location, is important. You know when you walk along a footpath and you go over a bump because the tree is not being naughty. The tree is looking for water. If you've got healthy trees, they're likely to go the distance. There are some trees that lose their branches. I walked through a park at Lane Cove the weekend and there were some huge trees with some dead branches up there, and I thought, gee, I hope that doesn't fall on me. It's a risk.
That's where the accident occurs.
It's a risk, but properly managed, it's one that I think we ought to endure. Can I just finish this up? Some people... No, that'll do. Any more questions? Yes, please. Any more tree questions? Yes, ma'am.
Well, I'm interested in the leaky drains and how they directly or indirectly affect your air conditioning. If you just put in a leaky drain, is it that then that verge automatically gets a bit greener whether you plant stuff or not? Yeah. So the water stays, keeps the soil that much cooler. Soils dry and evaporate in bare sunlight. If there's water there, if there's anything that might grow there, it's more likely to grow. If there's existing or proposed plants and trees, they will do much better. A tree needs somewhere between 20 to, say, 500 litres of water a day, something like that. So leaky drains reduce the evaporative stuff that goes up. They actually, roads are like fry pans. They send the heat sideways up into the pavement. We've got really fine-grained data showing where the heat from the road will transfer by the middle to the end of the day sideways into shade. So water can help with that as well. That's a great question, thank you. And would you bother doing leaky drains in Perth where they get all their rain in like 2 months of the year?
I would, yes. There's some people, I've been there quite a bit. I've worked with some of the councils over there. Even though it's a sandy soil and it'll go straight down, it has other benefits in the water cycle. Perth's water, if this is yesterday and this is today and that's tomorrow, Perth's water's gone like that and it's going like that. So they need all the water they can get. They're losing too much through evaporation. So even if it's lost, it's not lost in the water budget if it's down there. Thank you. Do you have any more leaky drains questions? Because I love leaky drains.
I'm actually really confused. What is it actually? What are you doing? So where does the leaky drain get its gas from, and where does it get sewage?
If you Google how to make a leaky drain and take those links, you'll work out how to do it. Don't give me your phone number or email, or I'll hunt you down and we'll do one together. But it's really easy. If this is the building, this is the path, this is the verge, that's the gutter. Between the path edge and the gutter, we dig it up. And if there's a pipe, we cut it off. And we insert the leaky drain into that. Does that make sense?
Stormwater pipe.
Yeah, we cut off the stormwater pipe. In the books going around, there are examples of where we've done that in suburbs like Dulwich Hill. We did a whole street, and in those east coast lows, the leaky drain overflows and the water gets away, so no one dies, no one gets flooded. Is that a little clearer?
Clear, yeah.
Or you're just being nice to me?
I think someone's passing you a book because there's a picture somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Is that your website or are you affiliated with it?
That's the one. Look at that. Here's your colleague. She has a pick and mattock. You and she should get together and dig one. It's just liberating because you can walk down the street and they say, no one knows, but under there I'm doing good work. How are we doing, Whip Cracker? We almost finished? Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
So I think a lot of the people in the city are quite distrustful of their neighbors, or at least don't know their neighbors.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, like, socially, if you got any pushback, because it seems
Yes.
like a lot of these are like
Yes.
community.
There are some people in Chippendale who think I should be locked up. But, you know,
Like, can you rationalize with them, or do you feel like there's just some people you can't reach?
there are some people who can't reach. If we want to get 100 out of 100 people in our culture to agree on what to do in the next 5-10 years, we will not get this thing done. So long as no one is injured, so long as no property values are reduced and they are in fact increased. A terrace across from me sold for $3 million 2 weeks ago in my street. I want some of that money. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
I mean, is there a way that you reach out to them, or like?
There are some people who they think that the world they grew up on is going to continue forever, and you can't talk to them. And it's a waste of my time. I'm polite to them. I say, sorry, we have to agree to disagree. I'm not going to keep having a discussion about this like they do on, marriage equality. We need to talk about it. I'm not going to stop. Yes?
You mentioned that your chilies were stolen. Do you think that trend has changed?
No, not stolen. Taken.
Taken. So I have heard that some of your lemons were taken from the street.
Yeah.
Has that changed?
No, we lose. If we put in a really nice tree, fruit tree, which costs $40 to $50 in a nursery, they get stolen within about 2 days. I've seen men, so-called, pull up in utes and knock off our trees. So we've learnt we're streetwise. We punkerise them. We espalier them like that so that they get more sunlight. There's less demand on nutrients and water for their growth, and it goes into trees. But I've seen some people come along and pick every leaf on the kaffir limes, every leaf. And I think that's a wonderful thing. I'm not just talking to myself here, I love that stuff. It's our large shared living room. And I see people stop and talk and they say, look at that. It changes. We've got to view the 1/3 to 1/4 of our cities as ours, as our shared space. And there are some wonderful conversations that you can have in the street with perfect strangers when you've got a more interesting street where people pause, talk and so on. Great questions. Thank you for...
Maybe Anna?
Yes.
One more question. So I'm in the City of Sydney Council area as well.
Mm-hmm.
How did you go with getting permission to dig up the strip of pavement next to the gutter? Or who paid for it?
So work with me here. What's permission? I'm teasing you. You know how I used to be a lawyer. So if you do things from here, with integrity, with knowledge, and you carry your neighbours with you and you inform people what you're doing, you can do things for which there's no policy. At the moment, there's no policy for this. If you were to ask, councils and government authorities are like these. They can only say yes if they've got a program. If there's no program and policy, they can only say no. Don't ask if you're going to get a no. Do something really good, have a lot of media, and then, as you'll see in the book going around, the mayor will come out and plant some fruit trees. But what we have yet to get in Chippendale, I just want to finish up, are rate rebates and financial incentives, and we're working on that now. Sydney Water, for 20 years, has been charging me a stormwater levy for it owns the pipes that go into Blackwattle Bay, and I will not pay. They keep threatening to disconnect me. And I tell them that you should get out more. It's been on Al Jazeera, CNN, 60 Minutes. Everybody knows I'm not connected. And it goes really well. Anyway, it's work in progress. Lovely to have this forum. I hope you take advantage of the links and all the information there. This is the only game in town. This is real. This is like the air we breathe. That water that's being treated not like a second or third class citizen, but like it has no value at all, that's rushing down our streets, is the pathway to cooler cities. We've got to get that water, feed our trees, and take back our public domains. Thank you.